Welcome back to Family by Design, and we have been diving into quality connection in different areas. This week we're going to dive into quality connection, particularly with our family. What we do and how we connect with those in our family, it matters. So listen in as we dive into quality connection with the family.
Okay, so we've been talking about having quality connection. This is going to be our final episode in this series. We've talked about communication, having quality connection and communication
in the bedroom,
and
finances. Now
we're going to talk about in your children and your kids and raising children
and your family.
Yeah. So just about family matters. So
Family
quality connection
matters.
and family matters.
That's right. That's good. I like that.
In particular, we really want to probably hone in on talking about kids and dealing with them. Now so we're in a season in life to where we have one adult, a full adult child.
Full launch. Fully launched.
Fully launched. He's getting ready to be married next, in 5 weeks. I know. It's
wild.
So,
which we do have a podcast with him
yeah,
that is about launching well. So if you haven't listened to that and you have teenagers, then you should go over and listen to that because it's really good.
We also have 2 teenagers at home. One is 16, one is 13.
That is so wild.
It is. And then
especially
have a
because
9-year-old.
we're so young.
So we've experienced a lot. We have a lot more to go, of course, with family and those dynamics. But one of the things that we've come to understand is that I heard somebody say this before, and I think this is so important. When it comes to, because there's a lot of dynamics you talk about with children. You can talk about proper discipline. Maybe we'll get into some of that, but then also the time you spend with them, what kind of things you're allowing them to do or not do. Like the sky's the limit on what you can talk about. But I heard somebody say this recently, and I thought this was really great perspective, that you have more time with your children as adults than you do with them as children.
That's actually, it's very true. And when you think about it like that, it's kind of like mind-boggling.
And so that tells us where we need to invest heavily with our children is in their formative years, from the time they're born until they're 18. Now, if you keep having children, you're always you're in that stage for a pretty long time. And so we've been there for 18, 19 years. And we have another
10 years
to go with that. 8 or 9 years.
I mean, we're always going to have children.
Yes,
so.
But in their what we would consider to be formative years. We'll just say under 18. So
actually think about this. You really have 18 summers
with each individual child. Yeah. Because
that's
we've been going for a while and we still have a ways to go.
Yeah.
We have more than that collectively, but with each child you have 18. I don't know why summers is important. You also have 18 winters, 18 spring, 18 fall.
I don't know because I don't know. Summer is usually when school ends and summer begins.
And there's a whole conversation too when you talk about your children who's raising them. We are pro whatever people want to do with their kids. We don't say this is the right way. But homeschooling is something that is on the rise. And there's about a dozen reasons why we think homeschooling is good. It's good for us. But one of those things is the amount of time that kids spend in school. It's who's actually training your kids? So, but everybody has to do what they feel is right. You just have to realize what you're up against is you have a lot of other philosophies and ideologies that are being presented to your children while you're not with them. I believe the best model, I'm not saying it's the one that's going to get you to heaven because it's not based on this. But I think the best model, the most biblically accurate one is to where the parents are the ones who are raising their children.
Right.
And so could there be a time where they step out and they go to school? Yeah, the Lord could lead you to do that. You have to follow the Lord in it ultimately.
And trust Him.
But the most ideal thing is that the Lord's placed in you what is needed for your child.
That's right. I think that's key is that the Lord has placed in you what they need. And so you do have the ability to not only lead them in the way that they should go, but also to stay connected with them as you're leading them in the way that they should go. Good we're talking about quality connection. And so we're making sure that we have quality in our connection. And then we always just say too, or I say that connection is vital and it's important. We are made to connect with one another. And if we're not careful, we won't. And if we're not intentional, so maybe careful is not the word, if we're not intentional to connect on a good level, then we don't have that quality connection. And somewhere it can get severed if we're not intentional with it. Like, especially we've seen as our children grow and as they're coming into managing their freedom, and not necessarily like us controlling them and making their own decisions or whatever. We have to be really intentional about connecting with them. Because life is busy, they're going one direction, they're just growing up, they're hanging out with friends, they're doing their life, and then we're doing our life. Like, are we being intentional that we are connecting with each child individually and that it is a good quality connection? I think that's so vital that we have to ask ourselves that question. And if we're not, how come? And sometimes, there's pain involved, or it takes a lot of work, or they don't want to connect with us. And then that's the place where we have to.
And a lot of this comes down to understanding your kids.
Yes.
So like right now I've got one that I'm struggling to connect with because of his age and what he's interested in and what I'm not interested in. And so I went the streak for years. Actually, for years, I loved to fish. Now, I don't really like fishing as much anymore. If the weather's really nice, I enjoy going out and going fishing, but I don't love it. And so that's an area where he wants to connect with me. So the day that we have to do it coming up, it's going to be 54 degrees.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh. And I'm like, that stinks. It's going to be like 35 degrees in the morning. And I hate cold weather. I don't know what happened to me.
But you love him.
My love for him outweighs the hate for cold weather. Now, he doesn't actually listen to this podcast. I'm hoping one day he will, so he's not going to hear this. But I'm going to go fishing with him because I love him and I want to connect with him. And so the connection oftentimes requires sacrifice. For me, my other kids are easier to connect with because they do things that I like, which oftentimes, as busy as our life is, sometimes just sitting down and doing nothing. But he doesn't do that. He moves all of the time. Mm-hmm. He's got to be doing something, usually redneckish, and I'm just not a redneck. And so I have to put my redneck. I'm going to put my camo hat on and whatever, go do it. But anyways, the point is, you have to be intentional with it. And sometimes
you have
that requires sacrifice on your part. But we only have this certain amount of time with our children and the years that we have them as kids. And then those days are gone. Mm-hmm. They're not there. And then you still have a relationship with your kids when they're older, but it's different. It's not the same. They get married, they start their own family, and their whole world does not revolve around your schedule. It revolves around their schedule. And now you have two different households that are trying to mesh together, and it becomes more challenging. So strike while the iron's hot when your kids are younger. And this leads into a whole nother thing. That if you want to have quality, this is speaking to parents with younger children. If you have children that are still of disciplinary age, discipline your children properly. Learn how to do it. If you are not enjoying your children when they're young, it is not your children's fault.
I remember the first time that you said that to me, and I was like, what?
Yeah, because you had one in particular that was terrorizing our home when I was gone. And I'd come home and you were pulling your hair out.
And I was like, I'm done.
It ain't his fault.
Time out.
This is your fault. I will show you how to fix this, but you have to. Now, he was special. The other ones, I could have just looked at him when I got home and said, don't do this to your mother again, or you're going to pay the piper when I get home. And they changed, they adjusted. But this one in particular did not care if I said that. He only cared about what was happening in the moment, and he was running your life for about probably a 2-year period. It was It was not fun. Now we loved him, and he was very fun, but he was also just really
It was challenging.
he was a challenging person. And so, if you are not enjoying and I'm just speaking to those that are listening, if you're not enjoying your time at home with your kids, I'm sorry to say this, but it ain't your kid's fault. You have to, and so we both grew. I learned how to lead you in that. You learned how to pick up the paddle and use it more swiftly, whatever. And by the way, we are pro spanking because the Bible is pro spanking. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Rebellion is bound up in the heart of the child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. There's more rebellion in some children than there are in other children. So some children require more spanking than not. There's a reason that God gave us a split backside to be hit that's soft and can absorb some cushion. Is already split, so you're not going to split anything. There's all that stuff is important to understand that the world will say you're wrong and they think spanking is abuse. It is abuse to not spank your children. And so I don't want to go down that road for the moment, but you can determine whether you're going to have fun or it's going to be a frenzy with your children.
Right. And most of the time,
you.
like if you're doing, spanking in the proper way, it's not punishment and
Yep.
you're not doing it out because you got to this place where
That's
you're
right.
so angry and
You
frustrated.
do it out because they're in rebellion.
Yeah.
They're rebelling. And so you already tell them, when you disobey me, the consequence of that disobedience is that you will get spanked, not with my hand, because hands are for provision and for loving, but there is an object, your object of your choice that doesn't cause any kind of permanent damage, right? You would use like a piece of metal or something stupid like that. But our tools of choice typically were a wood paddle cut out of 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch plywood. Those were typically the tools of choice, and they worked pretty good. That would light their backsides up very nicely. They would often turn red back there and would sting and have a hard time sitting down for the next 30 seconds. But they didn't forget, if I disobey, then that's going to be the consequence of my disobedience, is that I'm going to get a spanking. And our children, they didn't ever hate us for it. They hated what was happening at the moment,
Right.
But it was their choice whether they were going to have that or not. But we made the choice that we're going to have peace in our house and we're going to enjoy one another. And you can't reason with a 2-year-old. You can't hardly reason with an 18-month-old. There comes a point, it's different for every kid. Most kids, by the time they hit 18 months old or so, some people think younger, sometimes people think older. But there's an age for each child where it is appropriate to bend them over your knee and use a proper instrument, not of punishment, but of consequence, that they have to have something to help direct them so that when they get older, they're an enjoyment. Because if you don't discipline your kids when they're younger, they will be undisciplined when they're older. And instead of having a good relationship with them, it will be nothing but a fight all the way into adulthood.
Right.
And I am a huge proponent that I would say that 99.9999999% of the time when a parent does not have a good relationship with their child when they get older is because they did not discipline them properly when they were younger.
And I would say too, like,
It's pretty strong opinions, but it's working for us. And I've seen it work on a lot of families that believe the same way. And it's not a strong hand thing.
No.
It is about...
It's not about...
It's about helping, and let me just finish my thought
control
here.
and punishment, yeah.
It's not about control and punishment and stuff. It's about when they're between the ages of like 2 and 10. 10's a stretch. It's really more like 2 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
In that range, if you will discipline your children properly, they will be a blessing to you. If you do not discipline your children properly, they will not be a blessing to you. Period. And so you won't enjoy it then, and you probably won't enjoy them when they're older. You have less likely that you will enjoy them when you're older and have a good relationship. Children intuitively, inherently respect boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And they find love in proper discipline. When the Lord disciplines me and my flesh gets a good spanking, I don't enjoy it, but I know that Dad loves me, right? Just coming from an adult perspective. And when you have a child that their rebellion needs to be driven out of them, they don't understand, they don't compute it all of it all the time. But when you help to deliver them from that rebellion that's bound up in them because they were born into this fallen world with a fallen nature, when you help deliver them from that, then your children will in turn love you. And when you do it not out of anger but out of love, then it's a natural thing for your children, either depending on how the makeup of that child, you either spank them and they reach up and hug you almost instantly, or sometimes in the next 10 minutes or the next, year, or no, not year, I'm just kidding. The next some point that day, you will find, especially when your children are younger, you will find them coming and putting their arms around you.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Because there's something built in that it works that way.
That, like, and never, when done rightly, like, connection will remain. Yeah. And it will only grow stronger because you made the decision that I'm not going to make this be about me, but I'm going to make this be about leading them and guiding them. Yeah. And then children, they just know that because you do love me, you were willing to help lead me the way that I needed to go so that I can understand boundaries. Because the thing is as you grow and you get into the world, like there's boundaries and there's consequences and there's all these things that come to them whether they like it or not. And are we doing our due diligence with them as children in our home, raising them so that when they get in life and as they grow, that they are respected because they know how to honor and they know how to navigate themselves within boundaries. Yeah. Like the whole thing is that you're not why we do this, why there is a consequence and why there is spanking is because they're not navigating their freedom well.
They have no idea.
They don't even understand that terminology.
That's so good that it's for them. And so, disciplining your child, helping them discover the consequences of their actions, that all that is for them. And so teaching and discipline are the elements that make up in training your child. And when you train your child, you're doing it. Obviously, it benefits everybody at the moment, but you're doing it for their sake. And that's what's so important. It's not for you. It's not about you. It literally is about them. Yeah. And we have a responsibility as parents to do that. And so this whole thing is we kind of went down that road for a little bit. I actually love talking about it because I feel like it's a strength in our home.
But
and it combats some of the ridiculous leftist ideology that's being propagated to American culture and church culture that spanking is abusing your child. No, it's not. See, you're abusing your child if you don't do things biblically accurate to raise them. And so anyways, I love to talk about that, but it's really about having this connection with your children and your family and that whole thing. But if they're undisciplined, you're not going to have a connection.
Right.
Every connection you have will be in strife.
Yes.
Every connection you have, every time you try to come together and do something, it's never peaceful. It's never enjoyable. And so it starts with them when they're younger, but when you get older, the dynamics change a little bit. And, if you're dealing with older children, adult children that you maybe didn't discipline correctly because you didn't know, and maybe you did know, but you miss it, like we've missed it, we haven't done it perfectly, then there's grace there, and God will give you understanding on how to do that. But families are supposed to be connected. It's right for families when people get older, and kids get older, it's right for the children to have a relationship with their parents. There's a lot of brokenness in families for various reasons. I think a lot of it stems back to things that happened with their child in childhood. There could have been abuse and different things that took place, bad stuff. But a lot of it is just because people maybe haven't figured out how to discipline. It's not something that's really understood very well in our culture very well. So kids grow up, relationships get broken, XYZ, they go to liberal colleges and get indoctrinated with garbage and whatever. There's a bunch of elements that could be involved. But here's my point in saying all this is that we should contend for relationship with our kids, even our adult kids. The parents lay out for the children are not supposed to lay out for the parents.
That's right.
If you have kids that you don't have a good relationship with, you should desire it. You shouldn't give up on that. You should pursue it. You should contend for it. But it might just have to start in the place of prayer.
Well,
you may
and
not be able to go beyond that for the moment.
yeah, and part of relationship is and even being a parent is preferring, the other over yourself, but it is like we're not supposed to be selfish. Being a mother and a father is one of the most selfless acts that we do.
Yeah.
And we don't look at it as I was the one who made a decision to have a child, and I'm going to then work and fight for the connection. And I'm not going to make it be about like, this is so hard, or it's so difficult, or I don't want to do this, or why, or whatever. Like we can get selfish in the mode, because when, especially in all the different seasons of life, anytime that you're trying to do, relationship with people, it takes work.
Yeah, it does.
And it takes intention. And if you're being selfish in it at all, it's not going to work. And so you having relationship with your children is a selfless act, because even maintaining connection isn't about how can, I connect with them. It's how do they need me to connect with them in this moment.
Yeah.
And learning the cues, especially as they get older, is like if there's things like we know with our youngest, there'll be like things that he says and things that he's wanting when he's actually saying without being able to communicate it, is like, I need connection right now, and this is the way that I need you to do it.
Yeah.
And we've just learned this with our kids at different ages, is that what they're saying sometimes is like, will you do this? Will you watch this? Can I do this? These things that are like, I'm actually telling you right now that I need connection with you, and this is how I want it.
Some of this is very practical.
Yeah.
And those are very practical things you're saying. And one of the things that has helped us, it doesn't drive everything we do, but it has helped us, is learning love languages. And not just learning your love language, but learning theirs. And sometimes it manifests a little bit different when they're kids than when they're adults.
Right.
But everybody relates to love a little bit different, and so that's been helpful for us.
Yes.
But it's to me, it just comes back to, so like this podcast is made not for children, it's made for adults.
Yeah.
The ones that are in charge of the family, and we call it family by design. And I think one of the root belief system that has to be there, the foundational belief system that has to be there with anybody who's in charge of the home, is that you have to, especially when it comes to kids, that you have to lay up for your children.
Right.
You cannot expect your children. If your children are determining the culture in your home, it's probably not good. Because
It definitely won't be
mature,
good.
They're not mature enough to know how to do that. You have to determine and be intentional to develop the culture in your home and in your relationship with your kids, which means that you have to lay up for them. Sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do. Oftentimes, you have to do things that are inconvenient. You have to do things to pursue them, and it's not that you don't love them, but it just takes work. It just takes effort. It just takes some time.
It's like being intentional to notice those cues, because like even I can think back of times where they were saying like, I want connection here, and I'm like, well, I'm too busy and I need to do this, and I can get to it whenever I get this done. And usually I'm pretty good at acknowledging, oh wait, this is the moment that they're asking for it. So I'm going to stop what it is that I'm doing, because it doesn't really matter. Like I'm like I'm a service, like a acts of service kind of person. So I'll serve you all day long. I want you to, I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll do your laundry, those kind of things. But like, that's not what everybody wants all the time. That's what I want. So whenever people are serving me, it makes me feel all loved. But like, none of my family has acts of service as their love language.
Right.
So anyway, I'll just have to stop, and I'll have to be like, no, I'm going to be so present in this moment with them, because it's what they're saying they need right now. And it's okay if the dishes don't get done, or that load of laundry sits on the bed a little bit longer, because they're saying to me right now. And when we stop what we're doing and we make it be about them, it says to them, you're communicating, I see you, you are known by me, and I love you, and I value this relationship, not the thing that I'm doing.
Right. When it comes down to it on just a very simple level, what's the most important thing?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
what are they going to remember?
Yeah. And people remember moments.
Yes.
And so they, the thing is that the clothes and the dishes and the grass and the whatever needs fixed and whatever you got to do and who you got to call, like all those things are important, but they don't carry with us into eternity. But our children do. Mm-hmm. They're more than just a physical body, right? They're just like us. They have a soul and they have a spirit, and those things continue on into eternity. What are we doing to impact them on an eternal level? You know this, you are your children's first pastor.
Yeah.
You not their pastor, and if you're not going to church, you should go to church. You should have a pastor. That's important. But your children, you are their first shepherd in their life, which means that, a good shepherd will lay down his life for his sheep. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to you and your children, you have to always be at this place I'm going to put them first, whatever they need. And their eternity and the fact that the quality of them and the makeup of them is of eternal substance means that it's way more valuable than any natural thing that I'm dealing with at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, amen. I just believe in Jesus' name. I'm praying. I believe in Jesus' name that you're going to have quality connection in your family, and that we just breathe the breath of life on. I just believe that the Lord's breathing the breath of life on your family, on your home, to where you have really great connection in all of the areas we've talked about. But your family is going to thrive. Your finances are going to thrive. Your bedroom time, for those of you that are married, are going to thrive. And just overall in your communication, you're thriving in Jesus' name. Love you. Bless you. Make sure to share this. Some people really need to hear this and will be blessed by it. So we'll see you next time on Family by Design. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Family by Design. I pray that you were blessed as you listen to the word of the Lord for your life today. I want to encourage you to go on and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. If this ministry is blessing you, go to our website at www.wartmen.org. There you can find more resources, and you can also consider partnering with this ministry. If you like what we're doing, we just pray that you would at least join us in prayer and consider supporting us financially as we take the gospel deep into the hearts of people. Gospel preached, hearts awakened, and nations reformed.